Thank you. I've studied hunger and food insecurity in North Carolina and around the country for about 20 years. And I wanted to share 3 ideas with you today from that experience, which talks not about the kid down the street who might be hungry, which is how we sort of envision this, but more about how this issue really is one of local economic security. So let me walk you through how I've come to that belief after all this time. The 3 ideas I want to share with you today are: you don't know how bad it is. Secondly, it may be bad, but it's fixable. And thirdly, but to fix it, we need to transform how we think about it. So the first idea, you don't know how bad it is. One of the basic indicators of how we do in our communities, our basic indicator of sort of economic security, how well things are going, is a measure that's used by researchers and government and community development and economic development folks and businesses, and that is what % of the kids in the local school system qualify for free and reduced price lunches. You may have heard about this program, but basically it's where we've looked at the households and seen that there's not enough resources there to guarantee that the kids have ready access to healthy food or sufficient food, so we try to get it to them where they are, which is mostly in the schools most of the time. So we use the lunchroom. So I'm a professor, there's no back row in my class, so I want some participation here. I want you to tell me what you think the % of kids who qualify for free and reduced price lunch is in the North Carolina public school system across the state. Some numbers.
70, 35.
I heard 45. I heard some other numbers. 75. Some of them are getting high. Okay. Well, you're close. 57%. 57% of K through 12 kids in the North Carolina public school system qualify now for free and reduced price lunch. The majority of our kids in our schools live in hungry households. We're not alone. Nationally, in 2013, we hit the milestone, I don't know if you call it positive, it's negative, of nationally, the majority of kids in the public school systems qualify now for free and reduced price lunch. In North Carolina, that's 851,000 kids. And that's not even including kids like this little girl, ages 0 to the babies up to 5 years old. And it doesn't include kids in the working class households that we all know about who make too much to qualify for these programs, but not enough to make ends meet. Right? And by the way, this little girl's waiting in line with her family at the food pantry in Dunn, North Carolina, and the reason they're waiting in line is the doors haven't opened up yet, and they know, which is true all across the state with food pantries, that the food's gonna run out before the line runs out. The problem is worse than we think. Well, it's okay though, right? Because we have free and reduced price meal program to help feed these kids, right? And so that's true as long as the food can get to the kids. But in terms of participation rates, we're not doing as well as we could. We do pretty well with elementary school kids in lunches. We get about 70% of the eligible kids actually get lunch. When you talk about breakfast, cut the number in half. When you talk about middle school, cut the number in half. When you talk about the high school, like Katrina was talking about, cut the number in half again. But what really worries me is how are we reaching the kids when they're not in school? On the weekends, on the teacher work days, on snow days. And yes, we do have snow days in North Carolina, you all know about that. And in the summer times. So let me ask you this, another quick quiz question. Of those 851,000 kids, how many do you think might take advantage of the summer version of the free and reduced price lunch program? Give me a %. Oh, you guys are good. You must have been in my class before. 17%. We are only reaching 17% of that 851,000 kids in the summertime. And it is difficult. The summer version of the program, it's harder to reach the kids because they're in the apartment complexes and they're in the trailer parks and they're in the neighborhoods and they're not in the regular school cafeteria. So the way we try to reach them is by basically recreating a school cafeteria in a church basement with volunteers. Or maybe we try to open up the doors at the school and we somehow expect the kids to figure out how to get there. All right? So why is this an economic development problem? I'm still sort of talking about it as terms of that poor, hungry kid down the street. Well, the reason is this, and I want you to imagine, especially you folks out there who are currently working, if you just happen to not be able to get breakfast that morning, how do you feel sitting at your desk when you hit 12 o'clock? You have to work through a meeting, it's 1 o'clock, you haven't eaten. Do you have a hard time focusing? Do you get kind of restless? I mean, think about it. What happens when you're hungry? You want to get out of that room and you want to get some food. Well, it's no wonder that kids have a hard time with this when they're in the same position. Research shows that kids who are hungry coming into school are lethargic, they can't stay focused, they can't stay on task. Kids who come with breakfast have higher attendance rates and do better with educational achievement tests. Just last Thursday, I was with my first grader in his classroom. The teacher's trying to put the kids together on a carpet like this, circle time, right? Get kids settled in, and they start with their numbers. And the kids are trying to learn Spanish. This kid comes up to the teacher. I'm standing there, and he's almost weeping. And he says, "Yo tiene hombre." And I don't speak Spanish, and he's trying to learn how to Spanish, but I could figure out what he's saying. And he explained in halting Spanish that he didn't have breakfast that morning and he was really hungry. Well, when you're hungry, not only does that kid not learn, but the other kids next to him don't learn. The teacher has to handle the situation instead of handling the classroom. Why is this an economic issue for our communities? I want you to think about a hungry second grader. They're graduating in 10 years. 57% of our public school kids are coming from hungry households. That is the workforce that our businesses are going to be going into to get workers, to try to attract businesses to come to our community. That's the workforce that we want to be prepared and ready. So I hope you business owners out there have this built into your 10-year strategic plan of how you're going to handle working with a workforce where 57% of them are coming from hungry homes. This is a long-term economic security issue in our communities, right? But my second message was, or is, that I think it's fixable. And the reason I think it's fixable is this. And that is because we know we have hungry kids, but we also have resources available to help feed them. If I can figure out how to feed a kid in the summertime, I can be reimbursed for the cost of preparing and delivering that meal at the rate of $3.50. It's like a kid walking around all summer, $3.50 above their head, if I can figure out how to get the food to the kid, right? I want you to think about that as a direct economic impact that kid has. That's an economic power with that kid. That if I can take advantage and unlock it with just logistics, I can put that money into my local economy. Think about those dollars as a businessman or businesswoman, an entrepreneur, and if you could capture that, what sort of economic driver could that be? The 83% of that 851,000 kids that we are not reaching represents a lost economic opportunity of $2.7 million a day that could be pumped into the North Carolina economy. and then multiply that out in every state across the country. When you want to talk about opportunities for economic development, I want to think about the farmers who are looking for markets for their fresh produce. This is what drives me insane. We know where the kids are. We got plenty of food, right? We've got farmers who want to sell their sweet potatoes and their strawberries and their apples and their eggs and their milk and their meat, and they are looking for markets inside North Carolina and all across the country. We've got businesses who want more business. We've got governments who want economic development. We've got folks who want jobs. Can we rethink this issue? Some folks have been able to rethink the issue. And let me give you an example. Jim Keaton is the child nutrition director in Durham County, for the Durham County schools. And he had the idea that he wanted to feed more kids breakfast in his schools, but he came up against the logistics issue of how to get the food to the kids, right? Think about a school in the morning when the kids come in off the buses. You know, it's really hard to think about getting all the kids into the cafeteria and running all of that. The school day needs to start. The teachers need to start their circle time. We need to get going. We got so many minutes. You know, we got so much to do. He said, breakfast in the classroom. Let's get the breakfast to the kids in the classroom. All right, this is a growing and popular idea. But you know what? Jim didn't have enough people to physically get the breakfast to the classroom. Do you know what Jim needed? A cart and a plan. He laid out a business plan and won a grant in order to buy some carts by showing that he could provide a healthy breakfast, all the sort of whole grain, turkey, sausage, fresh fruit kind of stuff that you want to get for the kids. And he showed how he could do it for just a little bit less than the federal reimbursement rate. He could capture a few pennies off of every breakfast. He got those pennies, and with enough pennies off enough breakfasts across a couple classrooms, he can buy another cart. He can serve breakfast in more classrooms, capture more pennies, buy another cart, serve breakfast in another classroom. His business plan is what got him his grant, and in 7 years, Jim is going to be serving breakfast in the classroom to every child in the Durham County public school system. Right? It's not, I should have Jim standing here, right? He's a very modest guy. He does this, he's a nutritionist. But he participated in these programs when he was growing up. And he knows the stigma attached, and he knows that it is possible to do, but he came at it with business acumen and with a plan in order to think about this from a logistics perspective. So you know what Jim did too, though? This is where it gets brilliant. He took that cart, and those carts are now helping him serve kids in the summer at a whole variety of meal sites across Durham County. And you know what he's doing? He is employing 350 people, 225 of them full-time. He pays them over $12 an hour. The full-time folks get health insurance, and they're putting money into their pensions, and they're making their own households more financially secure. It's a win-win. And he drew down over $500,000 that were spent on local grocery stores and local produce. He tries to emphasize local produce. He's all about sort of the local farm movement and the local foods movement. And he's trying to do it with healthy foods. And he's hiring drivers, and folks are working on the paperwork. I'm not saying that this is an easy thing to do, but he's figured out a way to approach it from an enterprise perspective, right? And he's still working with a whole bunch of volunteers, but he's making it work. And by the way, kids didn't pay a dime, but they ate 375,000 hot breakfasts and lunches and got some educational programming around it. So Jim is my hero. He raised the participation rate for summer meals from 17% all the way up to, 26%. Jim is my hero, but we need to transform this. That's the third message, right? We can push for incremental changes, but we're still not reaching the potential that we could. So I want to challenge you guys to say, we need somebody to come up and to help us partner better with business and with government, because this is logistics, people. This is solvable. And other people have figured this out and transformed the world. Netflix has changed how we deliver movies. FedEx has transformed how we deliver packages. Uber has transformed how we deliver people. Why can't we transform how we deliver food to kids? If we can partner with business and feed soldiers around the world 3 meals a day, why can't we figure out a system, a public-private partnership, to feed kids down the street? Here's just one idea, and it might be a crazy idea. Sometimes crazy ideas stick. But this is what I mean about changing our thinking. I grew up in Iowa, and this is an issue that's across the rural areas and the urban areas alike. And Traer, Iowa, population 2,000, less people than are in this room right now. And there are hungry kids there, no summer meal program, but there was a gas station, and next to the gas station was a deli. And in a lot of small towns, if you think about it, there's a grill or a pizza parlor, or the grocery store has a hot food counter, or there's a Subway. There's a lot of Subways, right? Okay, Subway actually can fix a healthy sandwich. What if we had this and had a sign out front that says kids eat free all summer long? And we scaled up and rethought and used the resources already in our community to figure out how to partner with either local business or with national business to think about how to deliver food to the kids. Again, there's lots of rules and regulations and things we can work through, but we can work through this, people. And that way we can think about this girl, and she can get fed, but also the people in the line behind her can be working on the jobs in the farms, in the food processing, cooking the food, delivering the food, doing the paperwork, building their own job skills, and providing more economic security in their own homes. Feeding kids now means local jobs now. Feeding kids now means a stronger workforce in the future. Feeding kids now means better markets for our own businesses in our local economies and our state and national economy. And of course, it's the right thing to do. I don't want to feed 10 more kids. I don't want to feed 100 more kids. I want to feed 851,000 kids. You guys need to help me. Thank you.